Hey Making Digital Real fans, it's Simon here from the Me and Mo podcast for ADHD. It's a podcast where I talk about autism and ADHD. Check out the episode with Susie Carberry talking about decluttering. You're listening to the Making Digital Real podcast with your host, Mike Roberts.
Hey everyone, it's Mike here from Making Digital Real. Thank you for tuning into episode 2. Today we're talking about the power of your podcast and how we can get it found and heard on LinkedIn. Now, I'm going to be doing quite a number of LinkedIn tips, tricks and strategies over the coming episodes. So today I'm going to be talking about one particular section on your front page, on your personal LinkedIn page, which is called the featured section. Now, if you haven't yet discovered the power of the featured section, let me explain. On your personal page, you've got so many different areas of what I call conversion boosters. Really great things that a lot of people don't even know exist unless you actually go in and activate these various different features. Now, the featured section is one of those areas. First of all, I am going to explain to you where you can find this and how you can activate this. So from your main page on LinkedIn, you'll see a little section underneath where your headline is and your location and things like that. And it's called Add Profile Section. If we click on this button, you've got Core, Recommended and Additional, 3 subheadings in a menu. And what you want to do is you want to go to the Recommended part, drop down that menu, and you'll see something called Add Featured. What that means is you are about to activate your featured section, allowing you to highlight anything that you like to your audience, which gives them a visual thumbnail and a clickable link that takes them to anywhere you want them to go, with a title and a brief explanation as well. Now, when you're adding these featured sections, you are going to need to remember that your audience, if they land on your page, on a desktop, for example, they are only going to be able to see your first 3 featured sections before they need to start scrolling and seeing more, because you can have as many as you like. But usually it's the first 3 which are really, really powerful, because that's what your audience are going to see. Now, what type of things can you put in your featured section? Obviously, we're going to be talking about your podcast series in a moment and how you can add that. But there are other media, links, those types of things that you can add as well. So what have we got? We can add a recent LinkedIn post as a featured section. So if you have done a post on LinkedIn, whether it be recently or a little while back, what you can do is you can add a recent post that you did that might have gone down really, really well. What that means is if you've got a piece of content, it doesn't disappear into a black hole after 48 hours like most posts do. You can actually be proud of it and say, this post was really good. It gained a lot of traction. And do you know what? I'm going to absolutely stick it on my front page in the featured section so it stays there forever until I choose to either move it or remove it. Now, we've also got the ability to add newsletters. Now, I'm going to be doing an episode purely on the power of LinkedIn newsletters very soon. But if you haven't yet discovered the LinkedIn newsletter feature, it is incredible, because it is the one place where you can create long-form content, fill it full of links, clicks, YouTube videos, hyperlinks, GIFs, whatever you want, and it really does gain traction, because the power of LinkedIn newsletters is phenomenal to grow your subscriber base, and it is also a multi-marketing channel approach. But don't worry too much about that right now. I am going to be doing an episode purely on LinkedIn newsletters very soon. You can also add articles that you've done on LinkedIn. Again, to me, that seems a little bit strange because I think newsletters have overtaken the articles feature in a way. I don't think articles get as much traction as they used to. But again, it's there, it's still usable, and it does still have its place if you want to provide long-form content in the form of an article. Again, we'll cover that more in a future episode. You can also add links It could be a link to a YouTube video. It could be a link to your website, a landing page, your lead magnet. This is what we're going to be talking about any second soon about podcasts. But just before I do, there are a few other things that you can add, such as media, images, PDFs, videos, things like that. But you can also add content from your profile as well, which is a premium feature. And I'm not going to be talking about premium features at all in this series. Everything we are going to be talking about when it comes to LinkedIn is the basic free version. If anybody wants to talk about the possibilities and the benefits and the pros and cons of premium LinkedIn, again, always happy to have that conversation. Right, so let's go back to adding a link. Now that is where we are going to add our podcast series. Now, if we were going to add a link to our podcast series, what this means to our audience is when they land on your page, you are telling them that you have something that many people don't, which is great consumable content that they can listen to wherever they are, whenever they are, which is such a great way of getting your audience to understand you, hear you, and rehumanize the way that you are building this digital marketing universe of yours. Now, I'll give you an example of mine. So the podcast link is the first in my 3 valuable featured sections on my featured section on LinkedIn. So when somebody lands on my page and they scroll down on the featured section, the first thing that they see is the fact that I have a podcast series called Podcasting and Digital Marketing Growth Hacks. On that image, it tells my audience exactly what this podcast series is about. Now, with regards to the imagery of your podcast, this is so important, the front cover. We are going to be going more in depth in that soon in a special episode. But what I'll tell you right now is you need to make sure that that image tells your audience exactly what you or your show is all about. You need to get their attention quick. And that image is so important. Underneath that image on the featured section, it allows me to give my audience a title. Not necessarily the title of the podcast. You can create your own title for this particular featured section on your page. But that is exactly what I've done. I've put my title in there because my title says to my audience exactly what the podcast is. Podcasting and Digital Marketing Growth Hacks. And then you can also create a description on this featured section. So underneath, what I've done is I've made sure to add valuable keywords and tell my audience exactly what they are going to be listening to if they click on this link. A brand new podcast series from Mike on the power of audio for digital marketing. From podcasting growth hacks to LinkedIn strategies and live masterclasses with clients. That tells it all almost. So I've just made it so easy for my audience to know what they're about to consume. The link will take them straight through to my podcast page. Now, with regards to the links, there are various ways that you can send them. But what I would suggest is don't send them to a particular platform. Don't send them to a Spotify link or an Apple link, because your audience might not be using that particular platform. So if you're whatever platform you're using to distribute your podcasts, again, we're going to be doing a special episode on that soon. I personally use a platform called Buzzsprout, which gives me a page that I can send my audience to so that they can choose which platform they want to listen on. And it is a great link. One of the reasons why I chose Buzzsprout, actually. Okay, everyone. So that's pretty much it for this episode. Today's summary for you all is your LinkedIn tip, trick, and strategy for this week is head over to your page. If you've got the featured section already activated, see what's in there. Is it outdated? Do you need to update it with some great new content? And if so, now is the time to do it. We are going to be talking about other ways that you can use the featured section in a future episode. But for today, If you have your podcast ready and launched, or if you're thinking about it, either create that episode right now, even if you haven't recorded it, just have a landing page for it, or if you have recorded it, get it into your featured section. So every visitor you have knows that you have great content that they can listen to straight away. That, folks, is the featured section. Now, lastly, before we go, if you would like to appear on the show, either be an intro, just like Simon was earlier on today's episode, or if you'd like to give me some great feedback or give me an audio review, and I will feature you, your business, your show, whatever you want, if you include it in your voice message. Or you could even join me on a strategy call so we can have a chat about your podcast and what we can do to make it even better. All you need to do is head over to podcast.makingdigitalreal.co.uk, where you will find the ability to send me a quick audio message or fill in your details to be sent an application form to be on a strategy session. So that's it from me, folks. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you all in the next episode.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Making Digital Real podcast. Until next time, keep innovating, keep growing, and keep making digital real.